Get 5 coffins ready.
Hey everyone, welcome to my guide for Erlang Shen. Erlang is a basic attack based warrior who at this point is pretty much exclusively a jungler, but is certainly still capable in the solo lane and is okay as a support. But to keep the guide concise, I'll stick to talking about jungling. For builds, Erlang sometimes buys a small amount of defense and then from there focuses on stacking all the basic attack based items that are relevant to that particular match. Basic attack based gods like Erlang benefit a lot from the usable items in the game. Anti-heal, you got it. Percent pen, you got it. Percent health damage, it's all there. You can of course always just fall back on one of these builds, but be sure to check out all the items in the store with attack speed on them and see if they're applicable to your match. Relics wise, Blink is a must-have for a myriad of reasons, and lacking any inherent CC immunity in his kit, Beads is a great option too. Erlang is pretty simple, but piecing all of his abilities together in the right order as well as doing enough damage while not expending everything all at once is important too. One ability you don't need to keep track of though is your passive. Every time Erlang basic attacks, his dog does too, dealing 5% of Erlang's basic attack damage as well as 1.75% of the target's max health. So yeah, Erlang's basic attacks do damage. But okay, this does give me a chance to touch on his basic attack chain, which is pretty unique. He attacks 3 times normally, then swings in an AoE, then slams down for a final hit, the AoE doing the most damage out of the bunch. So you guessed it, you want to try and cancel the basic attack if you can to avoid the long AoE basic unless you absolutely need it to secure a kill. That said though, given the speed of these basic attacks, you only want to cancel the first basic attack early on in the match. Then once you really get your attack speed rolling, you want to cancel after the second hit of the chain. Cancel with what? Well, his first ability of course. Erlang gains bonus damage on his basic attack, as well as lifesteal, and reduces the damage the damaged enemy deals to all sources stacking up to 3 times, all scaling with his ability level. Then, once the ability is ended, successful basic attacks will reduce the cooldown of this ability, and that's kinda it. When you get in range, you immediately follow up with this ability, and with your passive on top of that, you basically become a lawnmower for squishy life bars. This ability really does all the heavy lifting for you. It makes Erlang insanely good in a 1v1 trade when it's up without Erlang having to do much. This ability teams itself perfectly with Erlang's third ability though. Erlang gains the ability to switch into a mink or a turtle, the turtle gaining a little movement speed but granting Erlang a shield which scales with his protections from items, and can pass through all enemies, damaging them for a smaller amount than the mink, while the mink grants Erlang movement speed and deals damage on contact with enemies and stopping on enemy gods. That's not all for the mink though. After Erlang has transformed back, he gains attack speed and movement speed for 4 seconds after the mink ends, and let me just say, this attack speed stim is no joke. It's on par with some hunters. But this also loops back around to ease of use with Erlang. Since the mink ends itself as soon as you hit an enemy god, just hold down the basic attack button on contact and you're golden. The question remains though, when's the best time to go for the turtle versus the mink? Well, for aggression the turtle is an absolute no-go. The damage difference between the two is absurd. But for defensive purposes, the mink is solid, but the turtle is the safer option, giving you that nice little shield and not being able to be body blocked. In my experience at least, I get crowded pretty badly on Erlang Shen, so I almost exclusively use the turtle to get out of a bad situation. But if you see clear air ahead, the mink is technically better at covering larger distances. With all that said though, your third ability would be nothing without your second ability. Erlang throws down a spear at a target location, dealing the same damage in the entire AoE, with the center of the AoE rooting any enemy's hit. Again, brutally simple. It's perfect at a distance, following up with your 3, or in their face accompanied with a blink. Again, following up with your 3 when they use their movement ability, or maybe even start with the 3 and then use this once they try to run, use your mink move speed and this route to catch up. Of course it's awesome for self-peel too, again prior to using your 3. One of the simplest abilities in the game, bar none, and it makes his ultimate look complicated in comparison. Erlang taunts all enemies in front of him, gaining damage mitigation, and after 4 seconds heals for an absurd scaling amount. This is yet another piece of CC for Erlang which functions very similarly to his second ability. Use it after a blink, use it to set up for your 3, etc. Not really much to using it. The only real tip here is do it early. 4 seconds may not sound like long, but you'll find yourself panicking waiting for the heal if you wait to use this ability in a fight. A final note about this ability is, if you do get caught, try to use it away from enemies and once again as soon as possible, and then move into your turtle form. This not only gives you that big heal in 4 seconds, but significant damage mitigation with the shield as you make your escape. Speaking of that damage mitigation, it, like a lot of Erlang's abilities so far, isn't really something you actively play around. It just helps you get on with the job of being Erlang and getting in people's faces for an absurd amount of shred. Here's a few examples of combos with Erlang. For leveling, you want your 2 at level 1, your 3 at level 2, and your 1 at level 3. From there you max your 3, your 1, then your 2, holding off on leveling your Earl until your 3 and 1 are max level. This has been my shortest guide to date and with good reason. Erlang's simplicity is his greatest asset, and it makes him extremely flexible as a god who can be a tanky harass style character or a squishy life bar evaporator, regardless of the role you put him in. A lot of this comes down to items, and right now a lot is going on in Erlang's favor. That said, he's received almost nothing but nerfs since his release, when really it's his ability to utilize just about any attack speed or hybrid item in the game with great effectiveness that's the true cause of his prominence anytime he's in the meta. So in short, Erlang tends to be very good or very bad depending on what items are strong. So keep an eye out on websites like awesomesmite.com or casualsmite.com to check his pick and ban rates, which right now are through the roof. Erlang, as an in-your-face basic attacker though, does still require confidence to play well. You're really not going to get anything out of the character if you just try and dip your toes into trades or god forbid play back. If you play Erlang, be prepared to really go deep to be effective. In the same vein, Erlang is not great from behind, but as I've been saying, his trade potential is absurd just from his kit. So tag on just how many counter items are basic attack based, and with good matchup knowledge, it can be hard to be the sole reason for a loss as Erlang, especially considering his ganks are solid from the word go and just spring up from there. Sure, you need Blink to get it done, but few characters can only dream of the ganks Erlang is capable of pre-level 5. You're probably going to get dunked on a few times for going too deep with Erlang, but as you play him, I think you'll slowly start to understand why I've been preaching rushdown with this character. That's all I have on Erlang for now. Thanks for watching.